It's time now for the health facts with none other than Dr. Brown. Stay tuned here at WVOE.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. As always, I greatly appreciate it. It's always good to talk to the folks at WVOE and, of course, anyone that's tuning in to the live stream as well. Good afternoon. You're locked into WVOE, the voice of Ebony, where your health is our heartbeat. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Brown, president and founder of PressureMD Academy, welcoming you to another enriching session of Health Facts, the show where wisdom meets wellness and knowledge is always in season. All right, good folks. Thank you for tuning in, for listening, for paying, giving us a little bit of your time. We always appreciate that. It's always wonderful. I tell you, a chance to talk to folks and hopefully share a little bit of knowledge, so that we can all be, all be better for it. So, I think we got what, two more health facts, before 2025 is out and 2026 will be in. And of course, what's coming up next? We just passed one holiday and we got two more to go. And so, one of the things that happens during those holidays sometimes is that, we may have had a great health journey most of the year. And then somehow those big three, it's kind of like back to back. They swing at us, and sometimes they can throw us off of our goals. Throw us off our goals, or maybe we take a little step back from what we've been doing. So what we're hoping to do this for this session is to give you some pointers or some tips that hopefully will help you stay healthy even through the holidays. Because if you think about it, if you can, not gain weight, and maybe even if you're on a weight loss journey, continue to maybe even lose a little weight over these next couple of weeks, guess what? You've set yourself up for great success starting in 2026. So we don't want to wait until 2026. We want to get started now so that we can really hit another gear when 2026 actually gets here. So that's our goal. So today's health facts, we're going to be talking to you about some helpful tips to continue to maintain your wellness journey. Okay. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk about, 10 actionable wellness tips. These are some tips that can kind of help you to navigate, the holiday stressors, because, and by stressors, I mean temptation, because, people are going to have, all kind of plates. They're going to be dinners. You got the family dinners, you got the company dinners. There'll be, all kinds of food that looks awfully good throughout the holidays. So we want to set you up for success, so that you hopefully will minimize the consumption of extra calories, or hopefully hold things down. And like I said, continue on your wellness journey. Okay, so we got our top 10 wellness tips. Okay, so number one. So when it comes to nutrition and mindful eating, this is a tip that can help you whenever you're going to different places, and like I said, you got a holiday dinner here, or like I said, a luncheon at the job, things of this nature. And one thing that can help you is hydration. Okay, hydrate. Make sure you drink a full glass of water before every party, before every meal, before every sweet treat. What water can do, like this is half a glass, but I would get a full glass of water, is it actually, because part of feeling full is that stomach actually having stretching, right? So you want to drink a full glass of water to see if it can help you to minimize the kind of the cravings, help you to feel a little more full. So you want to drink that water before, like I said, before every party, before every meal, before every sweet treat. Okay, so if you got a holiday party and it's at noon, then before you go in there, you want to make sure that you go get you a nice glass of water, and drink at least one nice glass of water before you walk in, and then that way it'll be a lot less tempting to grab all the snacks and things that they may have at the job. Okay, so that's one, hydrate. Okay, Number two, you want to try to do a one plate rule. Okay. So, whether if it's a buffet, large dinner, try to make one plate of things you truly want. And even with that, you probably want to minimize things that may be high calorie. Okay. So, I'm not going to say take away all the mac and cheese, but, get a small portion of the mac and cheese, just a small portion. Okay. Savor it, take your time, enjoy that plate. Okay. Now, when you go back for seconds, you want to be filling that plate up with vegetables, veggies, more the healthy food. So the one plate rule is going to be one plate of the stuff you truly want. Okay, but and like I said, and not you still want to be conscious about that as well. But then if you go back for a second plate, make sure you get vegetables, things that are a little more healthy, a little more lean. So you want to do that. Okay, all right. So that's another thing. Now, number three, don't save up. Okay. And this would be a different concept than fasting. Of course, some people do intermittent fasting and they intentionally miss meals, but some people try to not eat before the big meal. So, Christmas Day, you're going to be eating at 3 o'clock, and so you skip meals in anticipation of eating. So what can happen in this case is that, especially if you've not been fasting stuff before, you may get some craving, your blood sugar may get low. And what happens is that you wind up overeating. You wind up overeating. And honestly, some people used to do this intentionally, and I remember doing this as well. So you don't eat breakfast, you don't eat lunch because you plan on eating as much as you can at the dinner. But of course, now that you listen to health facts, you don't want to do that because you want to be a much more conscious eater. You want to be selective about what you're eating and selective about how much you're eating in order to maintain your wellness goals throughout the year. So don't save up. In that case, you want to get you a small breakfast. You want to get you a sensible lunch before you eat that meal. Now and like I said, that's different than people that do intermittent fasting because the people that do intermittent fasting, they're planning on missing those meals and they probably already have been doing it. So their body will respond to this a little differently. Okay. All right. So that's number three. Number four, embrace your fiber. Okay. Fill half the plate with non-starchy vegetables, salads, roasted vegetables, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are going to be low calorie, high fiber, and they're going to help fill you up before you dive in for the heavy dishes. Okay. So then it gets a little easier to not get as much of the macaroni and cheese. Okay, so instead of you getting a big scoop, you might get half the scoop of the macaroni and cheese because you're filling up with fiber. Okay, so that's going to help you as well. So that's for the nutrition and mindful eating. So the other thing, of course, we talked about before, when you want to do this lifestyle stuff, you want to do exercise and movement, because this really gets, when holidays come, a lot of people get off the routine. I must admit, I'm one of those people. So sometimes you have to keep it going. So you want to schedule, the number five tip, you want to schedule your sweat. You want to treat your workout like a non-negotiable appointment. Okay. And this is in general, but definitely through the holidays. You want to treat it like a non-negotiable appointment. The same way you get up and go to work, the same way you make your doctor's appointment, the same way like I said, if you got a concert that you plan for and you do everything you can not to miss that, you want to treat your workouts the same way. So you want to treat it like a non-negotiable appointment and and do it first thing in the morning if at all possible. Because especially throughout the holidays, your days become chaotic. Things come up, people come in, and you can easily get distracted. But if you do it first thing in the morning, first of all, most people still sleeping. Okay, so you don't have as many distractions there. So even if it's just like maybe I'm gonna do 30, you might cut it down to 15 because you got to go do some preparation. But schedule that sweat, schedule that workout. Even if it's 10, 15 minutes of activity before everything else starts, that's enough to keep you on schedule. Because one of the things that we're all trying to develop is discipline with our exercise and scheduling our exercise and prioritizing that movement. So if you have to cut it back, time wise, so maybe you do a 30-minute, every morning or 3 days a week, you want to continue to do that, even if you have to cut it back to 15 minutes. You can either cut it back to 15 minutes, or maybe you have to get up, 30 minutes earlier than you normally do in order to make sure you maintain that. Okay. So that's schedule your sweat. Number six, family fun walks. So typically, what do we do after our big meal? So you get your Christmas dinner, and what you're gonna do? Everybody goes to the couch, turn the TV on, and we all take that lovely little nap. We all take that lovely little nap, and it might be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, might be an hour, depending on how much you ate. So, but what you can do is, instead of collapsing on the couch, maybe get the family together and do a 10-20 minute post dinner walk. It actually aids your digestion, it boosts your mood, and it's actually quite a bit of quality time. And depending on where you are, you might, like I said, maybe in a rural area. And like I said, you could find some place to walk. And like I said, maybe you tell the kids about, what used to happen down the street or whatever. If you're in an urban area, like I said, you can walk around. Like I said, you can tell the history of the neighborhood, who used to live where, and things of this nature. But you can make this a family fun walk, and do that instead of just collapsing on the couch. And like I said, it kind of helps your digestive system, but it also, it helps you to continue moving and not go into that postprandial sleep that a lot of us like to do, okay? Or a lot of us are accustomed to doing. Remember this, a lot of the things that we're doing right now, we're trying to break habits. We're trying to break really a culture that we used to have. And like I said, we got to find other ways to do things in order to combat a lot of the unhealthy habits that are contributing to a lot of our chronic diseases. Okay, so schedule your sweat. You want family fun walks, number six, and number seven, micro movement. Okay, and what a micro movement is that, if okay, you can't get a full workout. Oh God, Jesus. So now you want to do it's something that they coined, they call it exercise snacking. So you know how you can't get a full meal in, so you just kind of snack throughout the day? Well, you can't get a full work in, so you're doing exercise snacking. So you might want to do some squats while you're waiting for your coffee. It might be 50, might be five. But like I said, you get your couple of squats in. Like I said, you might want to, there's a TV commercial going on, you might want to squeeze in a plank, or even do a push-up or two while you're waiting for the show to come back on. You might want to take stairs instead of elevators. Like I said, this is more so at work, unless you got an elevator in your house. I mean, some people might have that. Okay, but like a lot of times, you got to remember that every little bit counts. So body squats can be done, just about anywhere. Wall sits can be done just about anywhere. You could do a quick push up, if you got enough space wherever you are. And then, like I said, stairs, you can always, kind of go up and down stairs. That also counts as some exercise as well. So these are some ways to kind of get your exercise and your movement in whenever you're pressed for time, or whenever your schedule is changing, or like I said, if you're in a house and like I said, lots of relatives and stuff are coming in, like I said, your environment is changing, so you got to adjust to that. Okay, so that's your exercise and movement. So we talked a little bit about your nutrition and mindful eating. Talked a little about exercise and movement, and now we want to talk about the other thing that happens during holidays, and that is your mental health and stress management. Okay. And this is so important to people, because holidays are great. I mean, and you look at the TV, they make it seem like it's always this wonderful time. But holidays also are stressful for people. And the stress can be stressful for people, and also can challenge your mental health. Stressful because, like I said before, your environment is changing. Your schedules are changing because, like I said, now you got another family or two. So it's gone from, a household of four to a household of eight or 10 people that are staying in the house. And so that comes with its own, that's a lot more personalities. Your space is not your space anymore. You got to share things, and heaven forbid you're trying to go do some activities. Now you got to coordinate how everybody's going to, take showers and stuff of this nature. And depending on the nature of a person, some people completely okay with that. And then other people are, they're used to their time and their space, and it becomes a little stressful. So always be mindful of that. And then the mental health piece, of course, sometimes, holidays are great memories and stuff of that nature, but also sometimes people, if you've lost a loved one, especially around the holiday time, it may trigger those memories. or if you lost, or if you just lost someone, period, and that person was a big part of your holiday celebration. You find yourself with like a little bit of, I mean, it's grief, it's grief and depression. So those things can happen during the holidays. So you want to make sure that you are mindful of these things, and that you do whatever you can to kind of protect your mental health and manage your stress. And so some of the tips for that, number 8 is the power of no. N-O, and put a period behind it. Okay. N-O, because a no is a word. No can be a sentence. Okay. It can be a sentence. And that is, feel free to scale back sometimes, and say no to events or requests that might push you past your limit. You have to guard your energy and prioritize the things that bring you genuine joy, okay? Because a lot of times people are pulling you in different directions. They're doing things that, maybe they think is great, or they may be thinking they're doing it for you. But it's not something that may be bringing you joy. Actually, maybe increasing your stress. So remember the power of no. Simplicity is perfectly fine during these holidays. Okay, simplicity is perfectly fine because at the end of the day, especially when it comes to Christmas, we've commercialized this, we've made it this big deal. But at the end of the day, remember this is, especially for us Christians. I mean, this is a day that we're celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. And remember, he was in a manger. He ain't had no TV. There were no buffets. He was in a manger. Okay, his mom and dad, and they were in a manger. Getting fed with a few guests that are coming in. So it wasn't a whole big spread or anything of that nature. So feel free to say no and keep things simple. If people are trying to stress you and say, oh, we need to have this big celebration, no, we can just be around each other and enjoy the company of each other and focus on the real reason for the season. Okay. Number 9, schedule some me time. Especially for those, I would say, especially for those that are introverts. Okay. So, of course, there's introverts and extroverts. And extroverts love the attention. They love going out. They love all the people, the whole 9 yards. Introverts, a lot of times, they can do the interaction, but a lot of times they do need some just me time, some time to just sit down, be to themselves and just kind of, attend to their own needs. Okay. And so you might want to schedule some quote unquote me time. And it might just be 15 minutes a day, distraction free. Go sit in there, find a room, close the door. You might want to read, meditate, take a deep breath, close your eyes, or just sit in silence. Remember, silence is a way to meditate in and of itself. Okay. Silence is not being boring or anything of that nature. Silence is a prayer. Silence is a meditation. Silence is a way for you to, reconnect not only with yourself, but also, yet again, for us that are Christian, like I said, it's a way to communicate with God. Okay. So don't feel quote unquote guilty about that. If you need, 10, 15 minutes to yourself, feel free to take that time. All right. Okay. Because sometimes it can be essential for recharging yourself. Like, so you get that 10, 15 minutes. Now you're ready to go out there and hang out with everybody. Right. So, and you'll be a much, much less grouchy person. Okay. You don't want to be the Grinch, during Christmas time. Right. So, and then, number 10, practice gratitude. During this time, in the morning, evening, you might want to write down a couple of things that you're genuinely thankful for. You might want to shift your focus to appreciation as a way to reduce stress and anxiety. I think even with the grief, I was reading, reading this little Bible, and they were doing some explanation, and and when you learn to appreciate and practice gratitude. Even when you lose people, you can be thankful that you had the opportunity to know them. So even though grandma's gone, be thankful that you had the opportunity to spend, whether it was 5 years, 15 years, 20 years with grandma and learn what grandma did. And same thing with grandpa. You got 10, 15 years with grandpa. And like, yes, they've gone on. And of course, with Christians, we don't believe we die. We just think we believe we go to sleep. So, but being thankful for the times that they were here, and you might want to write down some of the good times that you had together, and remember that. instead of kind of focusing on the loss. So instead of focusing on the loss, be thankful for the time that you did have together. And that could be that shift in mindset can be very helpful with dealing with grief and dealing with having feeling depressed during this holiday. It is it's just a different way of sometimes because sometimes shifting the way you think about things can be extraordinarily powerful in how you respond, both on a mental and a physical level. So don't underestimate that. Okay. All righty. So that's kind of the top 10 actionable wellness tips. So I'm gonna go through them real quick, right? Real quick again. So one, hydrate. Okay, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Number two, one plate rule. So one plate, with some stuff that you want, and then any other plates are going to be, truly healthy plates, veggies, healthy food. Okay. Don't save up. Do not skip meals in anticipation of the bigger meal. You want to make sure you get some healthy snacks in there to keep yourself from being ravished, but by the time the real meal comes out. Embrace fiber. Fill your plate up with some fiber. That helps fill you up, and it's low calories. Okay, and also fiber is good for you in general. Then, of course, with exercise, you want to make sure that you schedule your sweat. So make sure you schedule it, preferably in the morning, even if it's 10 to 15 minutes before your day gets started. Family fun walks. Instead of going to sleep, you want to get the family up, take it to walk around the neighborhood, or any place that you can walk safely, in order to boost your mood, aid your digestion, and get some really good quality time in there. Number seven, micro movement. You want to make sure that you're getting some movement in, even if you're doing what we're going to term exercise snacking. So you want to get them 10 to 15 squats in while you're waiting for coffee. You want to do a plank or a push up while watching TV. And you might want to, if you got some stairs, you might want to walk it up and down them stairs a couple of times. Okay, everything counts. Mental health. The power of no. N-O period. Okay. N-O period. You ain't got to explain it. You ain't got to explain. N-O period. Okay. Make sure you guard your time, guard your energy. Don't get caught up in the commercial nature of the holidays, especially Christmas. Remember the reason for the season, and feel free to say N-O period. Okay. So schedule some me time, especially those of you that are introverts. Y'all might need, we no no we might need 10, 15 minutes to kind of get ourselves recharged and to be able to interact in a more healthy fashion. And then you want to practice gratitude. Write a couple of things down that you're thankful for, and being sure to focus on, try to not focus as much on loss as you are thankful for the time that you've had together or the things that you had. Okay. Just shift that focus. All right. So that's kind of our top 10 actionable wellness tips to kind of hopefully help you throughout this holiday season and throughout the year as well, but like definitely through the holiday season. Okay. So that's part of what we wanted to talk about. The other part I wanted to touch base on, and I know we've had a show about this before, and matter of fact, I feel like it was about this time last year. I think it was in January of last year, and I guess this year, technically speaking. And the difference between goals and resolutions. Okay, as you go into 2026, a lot of people are like, well, I'm gonna start my diet later on. I'm gonna lose the weight later on. And okay, like I said, we're going to try and keep your wellness habits throughout the holidays, but a lot of people are planning on doing resolutions. Okay, and there's resolutions and their goals. You want to do the goals. Okay. You want to do the goals. You want to set actionable goals, and you want to start, you want to execute those, because resolutions are usually vague. They're usually huge. They're too big. And a lot of times they're actually rooted in a feeling of failure. Okay. So, oh, I didn't do it last year, so I'm gonna do it this year. And you just do that every year. And so what happens is that they're not specific, they're not actionable. And honestly, some estimates say that by February, 80% of those resolutions have already fizzled out, and you already forgot about them. Okay. And you're already feeling bad about the resolution, and you're looking toward the next year before you get stuff done. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set some health goals. Okay. And You want to set that health goal and not health goal. Oh, I'm gonna do January 1. No, health goals for now. Okay. So it's write it down today, tomorrow, preferably today, and start working on it. Don't wait for a couple of weeks later. You want to start that stuff now. And one of the benefits of starting now, and like I said, yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot. Like I said, you say today, look, today I'm going to do two push-ups. Tomorrow I'm going to do three. Okay. You've started, and now that you've started, because what you can do is you can actually start now with the goal of getting to 10 push-ups, and you can start the one push-up today. You can do two push-ups tomorrow, but the sooner you start, it helps you to build some momentum. An object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So you want to start today, okay? So you want to go ahead and start that, and so by January 1, you're at 50. You're already in beast mode. Okay, maybe not beast, but maybe it could be a little beast, okay? But like I said, you want to already get that stuff started. So go ahead and get that stuff started. You want to get that health goal going on because you want to build that momentum, and you want to master the hardest part, okay? If you can start your health journey now, and you can stay consistent, if you can push it through the stressful holiday season, just think about how much easier it's going to be when it's January. All these stressors and distractions are gone away, and now you can keep pushing a little harder on your goals. So you want to go ahead and get that stuff now. And then the other thing is you reduce your guilt because if you set a resolution, you fail it, you're gonna feel bad. If you set a goal for tomorrow and then you don't get it done tomorrow, you're gonna feel bad. So you want to minimize that guilt. So you want to actively work on a small goal. That way you can feel a sense of accomplishment and you can kind of get rid of that all or nothing guilt that often gets people at especially this time of year. Okay. So, and in terms of the type of goal you want a what they call a SMART goal. And what a SMART goal is: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Okay. So instead of saying something like, I will exercise more, you'll say, hey, I will take 7,500 steps per day, 5 days a week, starting today. And of course, you can use your phone. You got fitness trackers and things of nature to kind of measure that. And so you can do what? You strike out today and hit that 7,500 number. And it doesn't have to be that high. You can say, I'm gonna get 1,000 steps. I'm gonna get 500 steps a day. I can get 500 steps per day, 5 days a week, starting today. And you can do that as well. And then you can shrink it up as you need to. But you want something that's specific, you want something that's measurable. You want something that's achievable. You want it to be relevant, and you want it to be time bound. You want to set those things there. So, and instead of saying I will eat healthier, I will prepare a healthy, nutrient dense lunch on Sunday for at least 3 days this week. So you want to do it's basically a meal prepping goal. So you're gonna prepare these healthy, nutrient dense lunches, okay? And you're gonna do it on Sunday for at least 3 work days this week. Okay. So that way you get 3 meals out of that. So that's the way to do your meal prepping. Okay. That's a meal prepping goal. Another one might be is I want to stress less. Okay, so what we're going to do, I will use a guided breathing app for 5 minutes before bed every night this week. And that's a mindfulness practice. Set your alarm. You're going to do that, breathing exercise. If they got a breathing exercise app, you could also do it. Hey, you could also do a prayer. You can also do a meditation session for 5 minutes before bed. And like I said, you might, and for those of you that find that the 5 minutes too long, okay, I'm gonna do a minute before bed every night this week, and then I'm gonna increase and I'll reassess and increase in 7 days. All right. So those sort of goals are what you want to set. Okay. So you want to pick a goal, and really you want to try to pick just one, especially for those of you who are really sedentary. Don't really think about what you're eating. You maybe have some chronic diseases. Set just one. Just do one. Don't try to get 10 of these goals, or, five of these goals. Set one goal. You can always reassess in 30 days, okay? And see if you want to add another one. So like I said, if you're a sedentary person and you don't normally walk, it may be that you want to get 1,000 steps in, 5 days out the week. and then reassess in 30 days if you can keep doing it every week. Okay. So set the goal, commit to it for the next 7 days, and that's how you begin this progress. One manageable small victory at a time. Achieve a small goal, and then you can build. And once you get used to that, then you get used to bigger goals. Okay. So that's kind of the health facts for the day. So just wanted to let everybody know some tools to kind of get through the holiday season and hopefully maintain some healthy habits and build on those starting in the new year. So in case you need, like I said, if you need, as always, if you need some connection, some support, I always tell people to look at there's things like the YMCA. They may have, exercise classes or may have some more advice or connections. The health department always has connections to different health resources. So you always want to look at that as well. Now, if it's mental health, if it's mental health stuff or you really just feel bad, especially if you want to harm yourself, make sure you call the suicide or the crisis hotline. I think the you can call text 988 anytime, day or night. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of those things. So I think this is pretty much it. Thank you all for tuning in. I greatly appreciate all the listeners on WVOE. I appreciate those of you that are online that are following this message. Feel free to call. Send a message, let us know what you think about it. Hopefully this is useful. And of course, as always, I'll have to let you know that I'm a doctor, but not your doctor. So of course, for any specific health related issues, go to your doctor. On this show, we do things for education and entertainment purposes. And of course, you can always reach out to us follow us at PressureMD Academy, or look up, PressureMD.com, if you have other questions or concerns. All right. Thank you for tuning in, and everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
All right. Thanks for calling in today.
All right. Thanks a lot. You all take care.